Hey, everybody. Welcome to another installment of 3 Days to Close, the podcast where leading realtors share their stories and strategies for success. I'm your host, Tim Schultz. I'm the co-owner and lead photographer at Bright House Photo. And I have my co-host with us today, Max Schultz, my firstborn. How you doing, Max?
Good. It'll be a little better if the Phillies win tonight, but a little anxious.
One and done, right? We just got to.
I know.
And whatever we did last night, we got to do again tonight, whatever that may be.
Magic.
Hey, with us today, I'm really excited. Old friend and realtor extraordinaire from Lansdale, Pennsylvania. You know Jordan Mariano from EXP Realty in Bluebell. Glad that you're here, Jordan. How are you?
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Good to see you, Tim. Good to see you, Max.
Yeah, good to see you. And this podcast really is intended to feature different points of view from realtors, and everyone kind of got to the business, got to the place where you are as a realtor in unique ways. You just don't go to school to be a realtor, and then be a realtor. So how did you get to this point in your career? And it's been a long career so far. So if you would.
Yeah, it's been 19 years now.
Wow.
So I, as a kid, had some interest in real estate because my parents owned multifamily properties. And I would go with my mom to show the properties, and I would enjoy that, interacting with the people, showing them things about the apartments and things like that. And then I had this line at this one apartment. It was on the third floor, and there was a water tower like 3 blocks away across the street.
Yeah.
And I would say, and look, it has a water view. And I thought it was funny.
How old were you then?
I don't know, maybe 7, 8,
Oh,
9.
cool.
Sorry, comedy peaks early. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just enjoyed interacting with the potential, the prospective tenants, and just knew that real estate itself and just checking out properties was of interest to me. And then I was fortunate enough in 2004 to go to real estate school. I took a step back from my other sales position, and took it off. I was fortunate enough that my wife was in a position that she had a good job that I was able to afford to step back, because my first year in real estate, forget about real estate school and leaving a career where you're making some money. It's my first year I had 28,000 in commission and 20,000 in expenses.
Got to spend money to make money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't pay much taxes. That's great. That's what I shoot for every year.
But it is that. It's like, I think there is this big leap that most people have to take to get into real estate. It's almost like kind of politics or something. You can't do it unless you have some kind of support system.
Yeah.
That gets you there. I think that's something we've heard a lot about from everybody we've talked to so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people can't afford to jump into it full time. And then it's a real challenge if you're working it part time while trying to work another job too, because you have to be available when others are available. So it's tough for people who are doing it part time. But so I jumped in full time in 2004, and 19 years later, here I'm doing the same thing.
Same thing. Different company though. You were with one company for a while.
I was with Weichert Realtors for 18 years, and joined EXP in January of 22.
Okay.
And things have been great. It's a different business structure, better compensation. We have great training. There's an opportunity to earn revenue with the company. So there's just a lot of good that comes along with EXP.
Good. So you and I talked recently about the market, maybe about a month ago when we were on a shoot together. And how do you see the general market in general, and then I guess like our market in particular?
Yeah, I think what people really want to you guys have a really unique perspective. I mean, especially like Lansdale, North Wales area and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How do you see kind of the general market trends, applying to our space?
It's interesting. I think we're lagging behind a little bit. I think the market nationwide has slowed as far as demand goes. I will say that we were at the point where we were having 15, 20 offers. I mean, there were some properties where I saw 38 offers. But so the number of offers is definitely, with the interest rates increasing, has definitely slowed. So I'm seeing like 1 to 5 offers on properties in most cases in our area.
Okay.
And the number of sales is definitely slowed. I think a lot of people that were going to buy and sell did so since 2019.
Right.
So there's just not a whole lot of people who haven't moved over the last 5 years. So we're going to see a slow. I actually had some statistics I looked up the other day. In 2021 in Bucks and Montgomery County, there was over 21,000 sales. In 2022 in Montgomery and Bucks County, the same area, 17,809 sales. And this year to date in Bucks and Montgomery County, we have 10,795.
Wow.
Which is a significant drop. I mean, even so, it's 40% less than 2021, but it's also 28% less than 2022.
Yeah.
So the reason we're not seeing a slow in the demand per se is because the inventory is just so low. There's just not houses for sale. So there's still multiple offers and record prices being set in some cases. I think that, we also have this growing area between, I'd say, New York to DC. So they talk about the urban sprawl. So we, have seen growth in this area when other areas slow. So
yeah,
it should be interesting to see what happens.
So I just bought a house, I guess, in May, and I guess
Congratulations.
Thanks. We had to put 9 offers in to try. We got one. Yeah, it was not easy.
That's brutal.
Yeah, it was a challenge. It's like, and I'm also in Jersey now. My wife dragged me here, so there was a lot of things to get used to: roundabouts, tomatoes, that sort of thing. But giving advice to a new buyer, people are approaching this market. They need to buy a house. How are you going to set them up for success? What do they need to know?
Yep.
I think you need to evaluate if their expectations are realistic for this market, for one, and prepare them to pack their patience. It's as 9 offers. I mean, that's a lot. You have to tell the real estate agent has to prepare them for what they're getting into as far as the demand and what kind of other offers are coming in that they would be competing with. So depending on what their financial position is, they might not be able to compete with some of these properties. And some people just have to target. Maybe a strategy is to target properties that have been on the market for some time, opposed to houses that are just listed, because those first 4, 5, 6, 7 days, the demand is much higher sometimes than a house that's been on the market for 30 or 40 days.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's. I just saw that. It was a Zillow article, blog post, but it was basically like it's a tale of two markets right now. For houses that don't need a lot of fixing up, they fly off the market, and then for houses that are clearly in need of repair or things like that, they sit on the market forever because nobody's willing to invest at these rates in them.
Yeah, and it's interesting also. There's properties that have been on the market for quite some time now, and I am starting to see some price reductions because of the expectations of the sellers. A lot of them just had their prices too high. So a lot of times there's a house on the market it's been on the market for a month or two, and really it has nothing to do with anything except for their asking price.
Yeah.
Now, would you advise a buyer to go in and make a lower offer on that then?
A lot of times it's not necessarily with a house that's been on the market for only a few days, but a house that's been on the market for a month or two. It might be a good time to submit an offer that's lower prior to them reducing their asking price, because once they reduce their asking price, there may be a new flurry of activity and competition that you're dealing with.
Okay. So set the level of expectations for the buyers, right? I mean,
critical.
You got to prep them. And I guess very important is make sure they're pre-qualified, pre-qualified for a mortgage, so they get right in that day, that evening. That's very important as well. Hey.
Yep, they have to be prepared with their pre-approval letter. it's good for them to fill out their buyer's information. This is probably too much detail, but fill out their buyer's financial information ahead of time so that they have these documents ready to go and so they're ready to submit an offer when the time comes.
Because I think you have to be prepared. Max was looking, 11:30 at night, he would see something that came up and call the realtor right before midnight, and they would make plans to go see it the next morning. It was like, you had to be ready.
You have to. And I have noticed that, so typically I'd say over the last like 4 or 5 years, I've listed properties on Thursday and said that offers are due like noon or 3 o'clock on the following Monday.
3 days to close. That's what that is. That's what that is.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
The demand is, and even if you don't set a deadline like that, I often see that the first 1, 2, and 3 days on the market are the most showing activity that you're going to have.
Okay.
And then after a price reduction, if you were to have to reduce your asking price, you're going to get a flurry of activity then too.
Right. Yeah, I think that's key. That is key on the selling side of things. And that's where we got to know each other from I'm photographing for you. You have a way of presenting a property. You have a way of presenting a home with your own professional flair. So can you give us a little bit about your process of the homeowner, what you say to them, and how do you get the house prepared?
So being your client, Tim, you might refer to me as particular.
Yes, that's a nice word.
So I make sure that I'm ahead of Tim at the shoot. I make sure that there's not a tissue box or a toothbrush or toothpaste or too many things on the kitchen counter. I typically like to get to a photo shoot 30 minutes to an hour before you get there, Tim, so that I can adjust the shades and add light to the rooms and turn light fixtures on, and just make sure that there's just not too much clutter. I kind of know that from visiting the property, like how much work I'm going to have to do ahead of time.
Right.
But a lot of times clients surprise me and they've done much more than I expect that they would to prepare for the showing. But I think it's critical. I think the photos are one of, if not the most important thing in marketing a property. So I tell Tim, if I ever find a better photographer, I'm going to cut him loose. But for many years, I
so far so good.
Don't see many people that take better pictures. So
very nice to hear that. Thank you.
It's like people have that expression like you eat with your eyes first, so it's got to look good before it tastes good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you buy with your eyes first with these houses because there's such a huge sorry about that, guys. Huge online presence with everything.
Right.
Yep.
And in some cases, like I think I've said this before too, but it's like my dad didn't even see the house until I owned it. Like
when I started in the business, there was only you could only put, I think it was 6 photos in the MLS.
Wow.
So everyone would go to see properties that were never going to match what they were looking for. So people would look at far more properties than they do now, because really it gives the opportunity. A lot of photos give the opportunity for the buyer to eliminate properties. So they look at less properties in person because they've noticed something on photo number 38.
Swipe left. We don't like this, right? That's our motto. And Bright Houses, we only take pretty pictures. We don't take junk, because that one junk picture is going to cause someone to move on to the next listing. So and to be that particular, and I appreciate that, and we've talked about this before, that it's not only the details that you're concerned about, but it's also building the additional trust with the homeowner, with the listing, because you want to present yourself as a real professional, and I think that comes through when you're there and you care. I think that works.
Yeah, and it's a big thing for future clients to see how I market a property. So I explained to them that I hire a professional photographer. I'm not going around with my iPhone and taking
thank God
photos with the phone.
Thank God.
There's just this tension. I've seen it with houses we went into, and people weren't totally thrilled to be having an open house that day, and like It's like, you're in my house, you're in my space, these people just coming through and kind of, well, I don't like these walls. And they're like, what's wrong with my walls? What's wrong? Like, it's so personal, and helping people
Yeah.
kind of depersonalize that. I think the only way you get through that is by saying, like, this is a standard structure. I'm a professional home seller. You're not a professional home lister, I guess. The client, that is.
Right.
They have to be in a place where they can take that advice. And
Yeah, and they have to be able to hear that your house now is a product on the internet, like everything on Amazon. It's a product. It's now a product, and it's no longer your house, and that's hard for people to hear, but the prettier we make it, the better return they'll get.
Yeah, and every house and every client is different. So some people, you go to their basement and you just say, okay, there's a lot of stuff here. I know that you're not able to, organize this completely, but make sure there's a path for people to get through.
Right.
So there's different levels of what kind of expectations you can set for the seller as far as what they're able to do. Each listing is different, but on that initial listing, we talk about minimizing, having less things on counters and sinks, and maybe suggest moving a piece of furniture from one area to another. Minimizing, like suggesting that before the photos are taken, they minimize what's in their closets.
Right.
Just things like that. So
yeah.
And I tell them to make sure the grass is cut within a few days prior to the photos.
Got to do that.
One of the strangest things to get used to as a homeowner. Used to be like a guy for that. Now it's like, well, they could just mow it outside my apartment. It didn't matter. Now I'm the guy. I have to do it.
So you bring up a good point. Like, every client is different, and you have to deal with them differently. If it's a new couple with a new house like Max, or if it's a seller, an estate sale, and you're dealing with the kids, it's all different. So you got to talk to them differently, set the level of expectations, especially for the sellers, as to what you're going to do, and realize that sometimes you're not going to get, as the realtor, what you want. You're going to get as much as you can, but not always everything.
And I try to gauge that up front by asking them, like, how far do you want to go with preparation?
Yeah.
Getting your house prepared for sale. Some people want to do, like, sometimes I'll analyze what the current value is and what the value would be if they do X, Y, and Z. A lot of people want that. And that's, not too often. Okay. Usually it's just minimal stuff to prepare the house for sale.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, you have a wide network of friends, family, clients. You've been in the business 20 years, so I would imagine your process can be kind of a long process. You could be talking to someone that is thinking about selling or buying in a year, so at that point you're starting to engage.
Sometimes it's 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Right.
I mean, like,
in this market,
circumstances change with buyers. They have a plan to move next year. Something happens with work, or something personal, or the market, or whatever, and they decide that we're going to put it off a year or two. So a lot of times, timing changes.
Okay. Yeah. So and that's because you've been in the business so long. That's something that you're always looking down the road, I imagine, at your sellers and buyers, as to how to stay in touch. So you do a lot of marketing, or is it mainly word of mouth referrals at this point?
I do 3 mailers a year to 400 or 500 people.
Okay.
And I do a lot of social media advertising, and I explain that to sellers up front too when I talk about marketing their property, that I'm actually spending marketing and advertising dollars on their property to drive more traffic to 123mainstreet.com or something like that.
Yeah.
So I establish a website for their property, and do social media advertising, hopefully increasing the showing activity and then increasing the price for the seller.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm. So there's been a reduction in the number of realtors that are out there. I think you told me there was a stat, like there's a lot of people dropping out of the business just because the business is the way it is, from the figures that you gave us earlier. If there was one thing that you would call your superpower as a real estate agent, what would that be? I got you on the spot now.
Yeah, it's a difficult question.
It is.
I like to think that I have many superpowers.
Oh, okay.
But I would say communication is key. I feel like I'm a great communicator with my clients, so that they know what they're getting into, first of all. And then I went to college for marketing. So I have a background and a belief in marketing. So I explain and follow through on my marketing plans.
I mean, for people we talked to, the real estate agents that I've just been in touch with through the home buying process, I think the aggressive approach to marketing the house, to maximizing, price per square foot or whatever other, success metric. You're the first person who's kind of said that they're going to engage that marketing plan with every house they throw up for sale.
Yeah, I think it's critical. I think if you're gonna, I always thought, so I started young in the business compared to most real estate agents. I think I was 26, and I figured I need to do more and charge the same to be competitive with people that have been in the business for quite some time. And I've just kept that mentality. Like there's things that I probably don't need to do, but I'm gonna do them anyway for the client, just to make sure that they're getting the best value and getting the most dollar out of their house.
Right.
I keep talking about sellers, but
it's all right. So you're 20 years in, 19 years in the biz. Were there any people along the way, especially at the beginning, that you would consider a mentor, or that gave you your clear vision of marketing and things like that?
Not necessarily of marketing, but the business and mentoring throughout transactions, and just watching how they conduct their business. It was good to watch, especially Marie Kydell, which
Yeah.
And my mentor Ed DeBlasi.
Yep.
So we had when you got in the business, in most companies, I assume, have like a mentor program. So that he was my designated mentor, and he was a great influence on me. And then my old manager, Sheila Banner, she was great too. So it's those three were good, and of course my parents giving me the background of having, creating that fire and that interest in real estate.
Right. Okay, good. So if you will, EXP Realty is a different kind of realty company, and you mentioned that a little bit earlier, that it's not your brick and mortar. It's different, and I wonder if you want to talk a little bit about that, about the opportunity for realtors to take advantage of this unique setup.
So EXP is, in many ways, my life has not changed day to day. I worked from home almost all the time at my previous company. We have the same kind of support and the same processes that we had at my old company. What EXP does not do is they don't spend money on rent. Therefore, they're able to give a better compensation program to their agents, because they don't have all that overhead.
Right.
Now, we as agents, for example, there's several brick and mortar EXP offices around us, and I'm a member of one. And the agents just contribute, and we pay the rent on those.
Yeah, like a shared office space when you need a conference room, or
And usually it can be just team leaders, like me and a few other team leaders at my office pay the rent. My team members don't pay the rent.
Jordan, I just want to say thanks for jumping on today. I really appreciate it. So just before we go, wanted to get real quick your, I guess maybe 5 steps for buyers getting ready to buy a house. How can you help your agent help you?
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I would say as far as buyers, what they should do if they're interested in getting into the market or back into the market. A lot of people got out of the market when rates went up. And if they're now thinking about getting back into the market or their finances have changed and they're now able to move forward, first I would reach out to get recommendations on who's a good real estate agent in the area that you're focused on, and reach out to them. They can recommend a mortgage loan officer most likely. If you know a mortgage loan officer, you could reach out to them and they could refer you to a real estate agent.
It's going to get the team together first.
Yep. Get pre-approved for what you're looking for. Focus on what area. A lot of times people have too wide. They say, I want to look in Montgomery County or Montgomery and Bucks County.
Too big.
Well, there's, it could be an hour and a half from one end to the other. So it's good to focus on the areas that you're most interested in. Find out if that area is something that you can afford and talk to your real estate agent about your expectations and if they're realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then move forward with taking a look at properties that interest you. You can have your real estate agent set up a automatic search from the MLS that will send you an email with as soon as, and the details can be, just 3 bedrooms and a price range, or you could get as detailed as I want 2-car garage and a basement, and it needs to be within 15 miles of my work. So some people get very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And the MLS gives you the opportunity to do that. So your agent can set up a search for you and then get out there and take a look at some homes.
Yeah.
Be patient, right?
Yeah. Pack your patience.
Pack your patience. I like that line. That's good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
So, hey, listen, I really appreciate you coming on with us today. I learned some things. And it's, you always got your facts and your statistics. Whenever I see you, you're giving me all the numbers that I need. So I appreciate that, and appreciate working with you. We've had a good run. Hopefully the pictures are still going to be at that quality, so that you'll keep calling.
Always will.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jordan. Thanks, Jordan.